Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I would like to thank the organizers for including me in this very important event. I will begin my presentation, or my talk, with a quote. A woman is a full circle. Within her is the power to create, nurture, and transform. A very strong quote, isn't it? I'm here to talk about my journey and the challenges that I have experienced in my life, in both professional and personal life. When I was 10 years old, my father received a diplomatic post to the United States. That was the first exposure to any formal education. I have never been to school at that time. Not knowing the English language was only a mere obstacle, as I was very focused in going to school. Living in America has provided me with the challenges that has allowed me to become as independent as I am today. Without having that opportunity, I don't think I would be where I am today. So I have my father to thank for, and the Omani government who has sent him there to do the work. At that time, Oman did not have any schools for girls, let alone to serve people with disabilities. So until then, I had never been there. I was always sitting at home and watching my siblings going to school, and I lived vicariously through their school experiences. One of the greatest challenges I have had to face is my visual impairment. Being that most people seem to confuse visual impairment with being intellectually challenged. Most people think that if you're visually impaired, there's also something wrong with you. They are often surprised when they find out that I am actually an intelligent person after all. For example, I would attend a meeting and I'd go in and say salam alaikum, and no one will choose to have a conversation with me. I'm not sure whether they are uncomfortable and just don't know how to deal with me, but believe it or not, the conversation will definitely change when they find out that I have a doctorate degree, and not only a doctorate degree, from one of the best institutes in the world in blindness and visual impairment. Wow, she does have a mind after all, you know. So then the conversation changes. Another one of my challenges, as I was educated strictly in English, my Arabic comprehension is not where it should be. However, I'm not the least bit embarrassed to say what I want to say to my audience, and I make sure that people understand what I have to say. Even if I use the wrong terminology, it helps that I cannot see the expressions. So then, I'm working here in Oman for the last 5 years. I chose to come back to Oman because this is where I wanted to make a difference. I wanted people to realize that people with any disabilities have the right to be here, and not only do they have the right to be here, they are very capable in delivering. Often they are more committed than those quote-unquote normal people. As I grew up in the US, I was there 10 years with my parents. My parents left, and I chose to stay there and went to a boarding school, thinking if I come back to Oman, I have 2 more years of high school, then what? So I stayed there and continued to struggle. It was not an easy life, but I was there and went to a boarding school and lived on my own. Then I found a university and actually attended a university for the first degree. When I got to that university, it was a very scary situation because at that time I had some vision, so I did not use a cane. So imagine, I would leave my room in the morning and not knowing will I be able to find my way back to my room. I would go to classes and hopefully I would map out my way that I walked to that class and come back. I spent a whole semester, I did not even attend the cafeteria where I paid for a meal plan. I lived on hot dogs, which I made in my room, and cans of sodas, because I refused to ask for help and did not know how to ask for help. I did my work strictly auditory during the first semester and didn't realize there were ways to order books on tapes because I came from a boarding school that did all that for me. And I actually flunked out the first semester. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to lose my scholarship. So I called a small private university in Connecticut and begged them, please take me. And they asked me, so what's your GPA? Well, I told them at the moment, none, because I'm not doing so well in school. But I'm sure with the proper support, I will deliver. So I transferred to New Haven, Connecticut, where actually, it was a small university, and they actually had experience in taking, Omani students. And I got there and I knew that wasn't the university where I wanted to be, but it was a start. I went there and got the help that I got. And believe it or not, after the first semester, I was a B student. So, I was able to stay there. They couldn't throw me out because they accepted me conditionally. You don't deliver a B, you are out. I said, okay, give me a chance, because I know I'll do it if I have the support. And I had the support that I needed. So I stayed there for 2 years. Knowing that I wanted to study special education, the school did not have special education. Then I transferred to another university in Connecticut. It was great, because then I already know what I needed to do. So I had the support, got my first bachelor's. Then I decided, oh my God, I don't think I'm ready to go to Oman yet, because I don't speak Arabic. And I decided I needed to do a master's. So I came back to Oman and applied for a scholarship and was told, you have to wait a year. So I said, okay, what do I do in this year? I went back to America and just floated, really. I went from one state to the next, visited my friends, and killed time, and then got my first master's degree in 1991. Then I came to Oman like any graduate who has all these dreams thinking they can change the world. Only reality hit when I got here. People were not ready for those changes. I worked in the school for the intellectually challenged, Tarbiyah Fikriya, for 7 years. And then I felt there's a part of me that was dying. It was time to move on. I gave all I could give, and it seems like I was just giving and not getting back. I applied for a scholarship to go do a doctorate. And I applied as a joke to Columbia University, thinking, well, I don't think I have the grades. Not knowing at that time, I actually graduated with my first master with a 3.9. I never paid attention to my grades. I applied and got the acceptance. I asked somebody to read the letter twice. Was I really accepted? Are you sure? Then I had to take a deferral for 1 year to get my thoughts together. I applied for a scholarship from Ministry of Education to go do a doctorate. And they said, if you change your major, we'll give you the scholarship. And I said, no, you will not dictate what I study. This is what Oman needs. I'm the first Omani with a PhD in special education. So it was a long struggle. I kept hoping I will get it, and at the end, I did not get it. I believe in the quote, to do is to be. I have a bachelor's in special ed, a master's in special ed, an EDM in blindness and visual impairment, and a doctorate in blindness and visual impairment. It was a struggle. I'm not saying it was easy. I had to sell my house. I had to sell my land. I had to get a bank loan. I am dead up to my eyeballs, but I did it with no one's help. In between, when I ran out of money, I would take time off and come home and spend a semester. And most people say, but Shariffa, what are you doing? It's taking you so long. And my reply would always be, listen, I am a disabled. I'm entitled to do time and a half what an average person does. So leave me alone. And in between, I lost my mother with cancer and lost my grandmother with cancer. So I'd also come home because I made a promise to them. They did not see why did I need another degree. I had 2 already. But I had promised them whenever they took a turn for their worse, I will be here. And sure enough, whenever I heard they were in the hospital, I was on the next plane out. I was known at Columbia University for taking all these incompletes, and I'll finish them next semester because I had to fulfill my family obligation. I was surrounded by very strong women in my life, and I think that's what kept me going. My grandmother was the one who raised me, and she was a strong woman. It's great to be surrounded by strong people, and women are always the doers. I believe every successful man around here is a woman behind it. Without us, they wouldn't be where they are, although they don't know it. Often people will come and visit me in the US and ask me, why? Why are you living alone? You can go home, have a driver, have a maid. Why are you struggling? And I would say, you know what? This is what keeps me going. I prefer to struggle and wake up and have to clean, do the laundry, go to the supermarket, all those hard things that I would normally not have to do when I'm in Oman. People will visit me and ask me, how do you do it? I couldn't live alone. I would do it. I had a niece visiting me once. And she woke up in the morning and I asked her, would you like me to make you breakfast? And she probably had her eyeballs popped out. You make me breakfast? Anyway, I walked in the kitchen. I said, okay, do you want fried eggs and toast? I even have some mandazi that I brought from Oman, from my freezer. I'm not going to claim that I made them, but I did bring them from Oman. So I walk into the kitchen, I turn on the stove, fry her some eggs, make some tea and some mandazi and put on the table. It wasn't until much later in life she said to me, you know what? I was horrified when you walked into that kitchen and you turned on the stove, not knowing what were you going to do with that fire. My sister, when she visited me, she always also said, you know what? I think I'll close the door. I don't want to see you holding that knife, because I would always say, no, I'm doing the cooking. This is my home. I'm in charge, not you. Sit down and I'll make you the meal. Often I fried stuff using a deep fryer. That always scared her. And I say, you know what? This is the most safest tool you could use to fry. It's safer than using your frying pan. You're not going to get burned using a deep fryer. She still, of course, never believed it, but I always delivered. You know, I'm not saying I'm the greatest cook, but the things that I cook, I do quite well. Often people who are around me, who have lived with me long enough, tend to even forget that I am visually impaired, because I do things and do them quite well, and they take it for granted. My husband seems to tell me to do things for him, and my sister will say, does he forget you're the one who's blind? That he should be doing these things for you? I said, no, it's okay, I can do it. The things that I cannot do, I do not hesitate to ask for help. And often he does forget, because he'll ask me to do things, some things that I cannot do. And I say, Reggie, you know, I think you should be doing this, not me. He say, oh, I forgot, you're blind, you know. I say, you know what, it's nice that you forget, but sometimes you should pamper me anyway. And so as I work here in Oman, one of the challenges that I've really had is not getting the respect that I feel I deserve as an educated person, as a citizen of Oman. I walk into offices and most people will talk to the person next to me rather than talk to me directly. And I would say, okay, you know what? I'm here. I'm not deaf. I'm not intellectually challenged. Ask me. I can answer what I want. I know what my needs are and I know how to fulfill what I need. And you know, I have this reputation at the ministry: when she comes in, just give her what you want because she will not leave. Because there's no in my vocabulary. Every problem has a solution. Why are you going to tell me no when I know it's possible? It's just because you're too lazy to get up and do it? I'm not too lazy to have come and do what I need to do. I have brought in experts to Oman. I have organized one of the most special education conference with people from different parts of the world. And I would go into these offices myself and do all the paperwork and do the bookings. And everyone is very surprised. Well, why aren't you sending people to do these things? And I would say, if you want something done and you want something done correctly, do it yourself. That's the only assurance that you're going to have it's going to be done. Otherwise, I feel like I'm quite a complete person, although visual impairment, while I'm here, it's definitely an obstacle because I feel the culture here is really not ready for people like us. People tend to do more for you rather than let you do. I mean, Of course, the country itself is not built for people with disabilities, for example, to travel on their own. I'd be traveling in the US. I lived in the Bronx. For those of you who might have an idea what Manhattan is like, I lived in the Bronx and took a subway to school. And believe me, the days that there were snow on the ground, those were tough days. And I was very stubborn in saying, okay, today I'm going to take a cab to school because it's safer, because it's easier. I would go out and the snow is up to my knees, and I would have my cane and tap it, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which way should I go? And hopefully I get the right pathway, the least speed of snow to get to where I need to go. I would get to the bus stop or subway, and often New Yorkers will say, well, why don't you get a dog? It's a lot safer for you to travel with a dog than that cane. And I would say, well, dogs are a lot of responsibility. It's an expense that no one needs. They don't realize having a dog is like having a child at home. And besides, I'm scared of dogs. My father actually used to beg me here, please get a dog. At least I'll know you're safe. I said, I'm more scared of dogs than people. You know, New York it's a friendly town. People helped you to get around. And I traveled on the subway alone. I have mobility instructor. I did a lot of self-teaching myself because I didn't want to be left out. I went to Broadway shows, I went to movies, I traveled on airplanes, and believe it or not, I would actually go to the airport on my own with a cab or with a bus, depending on my finances. If I was rich enough, feeling rich, okay, I'll take a cab today. If not, I take my subway pass and my luggage and my cane, and you know, I believe there were a lot of angels looking out for me while I was out there. So I would get to the airport, and most people would be surprised. You travel on your own? I said, well, you know, you always find somebody who's willing to give you a helping hand. I enjoyed traveling. I enjoyed sightseeing. Most people would say, well, why are you going sightseeing? You can't see anyway. You know, they miss the point that you don't need to see with your eyes. You can see with your heart. And I love life. I tremendously love life, so, you know, I don't like to miss out. And I don't want somebody to tell me about it. I want to go there and be part of it. You know, most people think I'm crazy when I say those things, but that's me, and I think that's what makes me different. But believe me, if I didn't have the opportunity to have grown up in America for the last 30 years of my life, I don't think I'd be here speaking to this audience today in this manner. In conclusion, I think I've spoken enough because I'm not really sure on the time here. Anyway, in conclusion, you never know how strong a woman is. She's like a tea bag. If you dip her in hot water, that's when you realize how strong we are. Thank you.